Howdy my totally spooky tubular gamers, and we are back with another spooky game ranking video, and today's is going to be on Dino Crisis. Now Dino Crisis might be Capcom's strangest, just weirdest franchise that they've ever had. The original game came out in 1999 and was developed by Shinji Mikami, the guy who made Resident Evil. It was pitched as an evolution of the genre. Instead of the zombies, we were going to have dinosaurs, and it was going to introduce some new elements to the survival horror gameplay that we had come to know and love at this point. And when the game was released, it was actually a pretty big success. Even by Capcom standards, it actually did quite well, and people really dug it. However, as you can see as we go down this list, Dino Crisis would continue on and get further and further away from its original vision, becoming less and less of what it was originally supposed to be, to the point that I can't even tell you what Dino Crisis' identity is anymore. Shinji Mikami would abandon the series after the first game, and the series would actually just straight abandon its horror roots for a much more action-oriented approach. However, that first game is still really highly regarded as a great horror game, and a lot of people, myself included, have really wanted to see it get remade in the same style that Resident Evil 2 and 3 were remade. The main character of the first two games, Regina, I think is one of the more underrated, stronger female characters in gaming, and I quite liked her and wish that she would come back some more. But this isn't about her, this is about all the games. I thought, hey, why not rank all the Dino Crisis games? I've dabbled in all the Dino Crisis games and had some enjoyment here and there, and I thought, hey, some people might not know of the other Dino Crisis games aside from that first game. So let's go over them. We're going to be ranking them from worst to best based on a couple pieces of criteria. How good is the gameplay? Does it still hold up? Are the puzzles super obtuse? Are the levels obnoxious? Is the gameplay obnoxious? Is the game even scary? We're going to be looking at all of it. And as always, let me know in the comments any memories you have with Dino Crisis, or your list, or your favorite game, or anything you want to tell me. Like, share, sub, all that stuff. So let's just get right into it. What do I think is the weakest of the Dino Crisis games? If you're one of the 5 people familiar with the Dino Crisis franchise, you'll know that Dino Crisis 3 is the worst of the franchise and is not very good. The game drops everything from the first 2 games. It drops the characters, settings, story, everything. Now it takes place in the future. So in the future we go to space, and the game takes place on a spaceship, and sees our colonists or explorers or whatever they are get attacked by dinosaurs on said spaceship. Yes, they fight dinosaurs in space. The plot is pretty damn stupid, even by Capcom standards, and doesn't really make any sense, and I'm not really sure what they were going for with this. Okay, so the plot sucks, but how's the gameplay? Well, it sucks also. This game is not good. The game drops all horror elements from the previous 2 games and is now a action-adventure style of game. The game still is fixed camera angles, and they're really annoying in this game. See, in Dino Crisis 3, you move around really quickly on the spaceship. You can just kind of fly around all over the place, but the fixed camera angles really ruin it. The other Dino Crisis games were not this fast, and the camera angles were not this bad. Most of the game involves you shooting dinosaurs up and solving puzzles, particularly that the ship is a puzzle as it morphs around. Now, the combat in this game is really bad because of that camera system I just mentioned. You end up just flying all over the place trying to shoot the dinosaurs, but the camera angle ends up changing so frequently that you have no idea if you're actually hitting the dinosaurs or not. On top of that, the dinosaurs kill you in like 2 hits, so prepare to die a lot. The combat flows terribly, it's quite annoying, it's frustrating with its terrible camera system, the gameplay is overly punishing, and really there's not much enjoyment to have with the combat. And the same can be said for the puzzles. They're all quite annoying. Moving the ship around so much is just why? And the game tries to be like Dino Crisis 2 with its upgrade mechanics, allowing you to buy items and weapons and all that, but it just was not as satisfying as it was in Dino Crisis 2. Ultimately, all these bad elements lead to a game that's just not very enjoyable on any front. I don't like any part of this game, and I'm kind of mad that it's even part of the Dino Crisis series. The game was slammed when it was released by pretty much everyone. And all these years later, it's the same story. In fact, I might say it's actually worse to play nowadays. It's aged really poorly also. And this game is best left forgotten. There is no Dino Crisis 3. The series probably just ended after 2. I don't recommend it at all. Our next game is the spin-off known as Dino Stalker. So while this does take place in the Dino Crisis franchise, it actually is in Capcom's Gun Survivor series, which was mostly the Resident Evil Survivor series. The game is a light gun shooter that was originally supposed to use a light gun. However, I don't have a light gun or a TV that even supports a light gun, so I got to use a wonderful controller. The story doesn't make much sense in this game either. You play as Mike Wired, a World War II fighter pilot who's about to die, but then he is somehow transported to a time with dinosaurs and is like, you know what, I'm gonna kill all these dinosaurs before they kill me. And the story, yeah, really doesn't make much sense. There are some connections to the previous Dino Crisis games, but the less said the better. I think the first thing to say about the gameplay is the controls are super whack. They are overly sensitive and it just does not control like how a normal first-person shooter or even a light gun game would. Something that was unique for the Survivor games is instead of this game being just a rail shooter that moves you forward, you actually get to control your legs, which is done with the left analog stick, and then the reticle is done with the right analog stick. However, it's like a mouse that's on like 1,000 sensitivity. It's just way too sensitive. But each level pretty much just sees you moving forward, blasting everything that moves. You want to kill all the dinosaurs, you want to blow shit up, and you want to try to beat the level fast enough so you don't run out of time. It's pretty standard stuff here. And when it comes to being a light gun game, I mean, I'll just be real, this isn't exactly at the top of my list. It's not awful, but it's not very good either. Whack controls aside, the game looks pretty awful for a PS2 game, and there wasn't really all that much fun to be had with it. It's pretty short, luckily. And you know, there are some cool bosses in the game, and I mean, you get to hunt down dinosaurs. When is that not fun? And maybe if I had a light gun, I would appreciate this game more, but as it currently stands, I just can't really recommend it. I mean, you're not really missing anything if you skip this one. Alright, so our next game is the original Dino Crisis. Yes, the one that got it all started, the classic survival horror game. The original Dino Crisis has an interesting setup that really isn't that far from Resident Evil. It sees a special operations raid team going into an island to investigate what the hell is going on. And after further investigation, dinosaurs. Yeah, it really isn't all that far off from Resident Evil and the Spencer Mansion, but I actually do like the plot of this game. I think it is fine enough, and I actually do like the characters, specifically Regina. She's great, she's super sassy, and actually has a good character. And when it comes to the gameplay, it is your standard, typical survival horror affair. Even though Shinji Mikami wanted to like evolve survival horror gaming, this really is just survival horror gaming. Like, this is what you'd expect from a Resident Evil kind of styled game that came out around this time. Tank controls, fixed camera angles, a ton of puzzles, and bloodthirsty dinosaurs that are ready to come kill you. Yeah, it's your standard survival horror affair, but these dinosaurs are way more dangerous than the zombies ever were. And you know, it's a really enjoyable time. The game actually does have some pretty scary moments to it, and it has some really tense moments with particularly the T-Rex. The game still has the good old item management that Resident Evil got real popular. It is a bit more lenient in this game than Resident Evil, and you can actually aim your gun and move at the same time. You don't have to completely stop to aim the gun. The game even has what is essentially QuickTime events. When the word danger shows up on screen, you gotta go literally nuts on the controller or you will die. Something pretty different with Dino Crisis from Resident Evil is the way that puzzles are handled in Dino Crisis. In Resident Evil, usually it's like a shape and you have to put it in somewhere else, kind of like a key. With Dino Crisis, it's a key card, and then there's also codes. And I gotta say, these puzzles are way more obnoxious than Resident Evil's, having to find the input disc and the code disc to open the door, and then you have to get the code and doing this puzzle. Like, it's really obnoxious, and it's honestly maybe the reason why I don't think this is the best Dino Crisis. I am not a big fan of these puzzles, and if you don't have a walkthrough, you're gonna be sitting here a long time trying to figure this shit out. Don't get me wrong, most of the puzzles are fine enough. It's just some of these get really annoying with the codes and all the discs, and it becomes too much. It becomes a little overbearing, and I just want to get back to fighting the dinosaurs or getting the crap scared out of me by the T-Rex. But all in all, I think Dino Crisis is a great survival horror game. It is quite underrated these days, and it absolutely deserves a remake in the style of Resident Evil 2. I think the encounters with the dinosaurs are great. I think the level design is pretty good. Annoying puzzles aside, I think some of them are still alright. And I quite liked Regina and just the general atmosphere of the game. I did play the game on the Dreamcast where it looks a little better and there's some special stuff on the VMU, but if you're going to play this game in modern day, it's probably best on either the PS3 through the store, while you still can, or the PlayStation Classic if you modded it. But I have no problem recommending this to fans of the genre. And so I think the best Dino Crisis game is actually Dino Crisis 2. Now, Dino Crisis 2 isn't actually a horror game. In fact, none of these games are horror games except the original. While Dino Crisis 2 does have a lot of survival horror elements, it is primarily an action game. The game takes place after the first Dino Crisis and sees Regina and newcomer Dylan going through a time gate to locate and rescue 1,300 survivors and collect data remnants of the Third Energy Project. The plot is pretty dumb in this game. In fact, the plot's pretty dumb in all of these games except the first Dino Crisis. But you're not here for the plot and its characters. Okay, you're maybe here for Regina, she's still great, but you're not here for the plot, that's for sure. The gameplay takes the first Dino Crisis, but definitely puts a lot more arcade elements and drops any horror semblance. The tense atmosphere, totally gone. Now you have combos and point multipliers and just points in general. You barely have to manage any resources anymore, as you're given just a ton of ammunition and medical supplies, and you can buy some whenever you want with the points you get from killing dinosaurs. You kill a ton of dinosaurs in this game. Like, they just give you tons of guns to just mow these dinos down, and that's exactly what you do. The game still has pre-rendered backgrounds, fixed camera angles, and tank controls, but any semblance of survival horror pretty much goes out the window. You're just going around blasting these dinosaurs, and you even get combos as you kill them in succession. As long as you can keep the combo going, you get more and more points, and you get multipliers. You even get bonus points if you can make it through an environment without getting hurt. And you know, the game actually flows really well. It's actually a really enjoyable time to go around killing all these dinosaurs. I mean, you're given a ton of different weapons. There's a ton of different dinosaurs in the game as well. In the first Dino Crisis, there wasn't very many dinosaurs, but in this game, there's well over a dozen. All the annoying puzzles from the first game are just totally thrown out the window. They're like all gone. There's a little bit of backtracking that is in this game, but there's no real puzzles. I mean, it's just a straight up action game. I mean, there's even rail shooter segments, and these are alright. I mean, these are probably better than Dino Stalker, honestly, but it just goes to show they really dropped that entire horror idea. And it's kind of weird to say this is the best Dino Crisis when it's not a horror game like at all, and Dino Crisis is kind of known as like a horror series, but really it's just that first game. But I have no doubt in my mind in saying that this is one of the best action games on the PS1. It's one of the best dino killing games ever. It's one of the best dinosaur games ever. And I mean, who doesn't love dinosaurs and blasting dinosaurs to hell? I mean, there's even a part where you get in a tank and start blasting dinosaurs. This game is just goofy as hell. It is crazy. It is very absurd, but I really like it. I had a very nice time with it. It really reminded me why I just love campy ass video games where they just want to be video games. It's just all about having fun. It doesn't have to be super serious and scary and all that. It's just a good ass time. There's even a secret fighting game that is hidden in the game after you beat it. I mean, it's a really enjoyable, stupid time. And I think if you're looking for a game where you hunt dinosaurs, you can't do much better than this because it's a really fun time. Now, Dino Crisis as a whole is a very interesting series, and I'd say it's pretty middling. I mean, 2 of the games on this list weren't very good, and 2 of them were actually pretty good. If I could recommend any of them, obviously it's Dino Crisis 1 and 2. They're both on the PS3, you can get them on the PSN store while you still can, and I mean, yeah, you might as well. I mean, what do you got to lose? But eventually, these games are totally going to get remade. At least I think the first Dino Crisis will get remade, and I'll be there day one. And so that's the end of this video. Like, share, sub, all that great stuff. Appreciate everything. We'll see you guys on the next horror series, which maybe will actually have some more horror games in it. Anyway, see ya.